Good morning, Flosstube. Pam, stitching between the lines. Happy Friday, May 24th, Friday before Memorial Day weekend. It promises to be cloudy and rainy, which is pretty much our norm. We're back in the basement because Stitch Mania means piles and piles of things. I'm looking at something over here. Sorry. I have lists and papers and notes and things, and I might have to turn the iPad, but I wanted to show you the quilt that's hanging here. Can you see it? It's a, the pattern is, I'm pretty sure Kate Spain, yep. It was a free pattern to use her fabric line a number of years ago. And at my quilt guild, I was on the program committee. Actually, I had made it already. And I was on the program committee, and we did it as a block of the month. Like, I gave out the pattern every month or told people how to access it. I might have sent it to them. I did contact the designer, and she gave me permission. So, for our group to use it. So every month I would download each installment and send it to everybody that was participating, and people did a fabulous job. I remade it using nautical fabrics, so all the mugs have a nautical blue and gray and a little red theme, but that quilt's not here. So it's cute. It's a fun one. It's Christmassy, but whatever. It's the basement. It's my little workstation here. So anyhow, let's do, first I have a little housekeeping to do. I forgot completely to revisit the subject of the picture from the restore. So I'm going to put a picture here. Two videos ago, I talked about how I stumbled upon that at the restore hanging on the wall for $10. And I would bet, I don't know how much money, it was identical to the one I made. I cannot fathom that the one I made ended up in this area. I didn't grow up in this area. I didn't live in this area. My family moved away. I have no, from where I did grow up and I moved up to this area, I have no idea where mine actually ended up, though. That's the thing. That's the quirky thing. But anyway, I talked about how I didn't buy it because, first of all, it's butt ugly. Let's be honest. But all of you, many people told me I needed to get right back there and buy that. As even if it wasn't mine, it's sort of a part of my stitching history. So I went back and to the restore, and it was gone. So I don't know where it would end up. I don't know. I don't honestly know what its value would be to anybody in terms of like antique dealers buying it. I don't know. I frequent the antique malls around here, so I'll keep you updated if I stumble upon it. We'll see if it's $10 or not. But anyway, I neglected to talk about that again. And then another thing I forgot to talk about. No, no, I didn't forget. I learned. So hang on. I have a whole stack of a stack. They're all one on top of the other. Vintage things to talk about and show. But I wanted to revisit this one, this American Frontier. When I looked it up online, let me see how I can get in some good shots of it. When I looked it up online, it said it was by a designer called Tumbleweeds, and I made a mention of how I would have guessed it was Country Cottage or Little House, especially this. This is so very typical of them. And it turns out it is. That Little House Needleworks designed some patterns under this Tumbleweeds name. Four is all I could find. I can't give the history of it. I just know that happened. Somebody commented, I believe it was when the designer's husband was going through cancer. I really don't know the exacts and whys, but I did want to clear up that this is actually a design by Little House under the name Tumbleweeds, and there appeared to be four designs, and this was the third one. Such a cute pattern. I'm pretty sure I looked at one at ABC Stitch to identify it, and it's possible they may have still had it. I mean, it came up on their website, so pretty sure that means they have it, could get it. It's not something I've ever seen anybody else show. So anyway, let's revisit that for half a second. We'll do vintage really later. I have to show this so I can scoot it out of my way. Like I said, I have stuff in every little nook and cranny here. I went yesterday and picked this up. Yeah, can you see? I had glass put on it. I don't usually do glass. I just felt like the size, I just felt like maybe a glass would be warranted. It's a very pretty deep burgundy-ish, complements the stitching threads very nicely. I intend to hang it somewhere, possibly in my dining room, and it'll stay there all year. I won't take this up and down. So it came out beautiful. They did a beautiful job. It's so nice to see your work showcased like that. It's hard to stretch these kind of big pieces, and this is done very well. If there's any chance that anything looks like it's a wrinkle or a pucker or a tuck, it's not. It's on dyed or hand-dyed fabric. Pretty sure it's a picture of this plus, but we'd have to revisit that on a prior video. Probably I have it in my X-Stitch app, the specifics, if somebody really wants to know. So I have to move out of the screen for half a second. Sorry, to get that propped properly. I have another finish that's not a Maynia. I showed this at my last video, and I had it underway. It didn't have a lot, but I made the last video, I think, on April 29th. So there was the rest of the 29th and April 30th. And so I finished this on April 30th so that I could start Maynia clean and fresh with a word play. So the way I did Maynia, we'll just do a quick recap, is I combined whips and new starts to reach the number 19. And I had 10 whips, word play, all 12 word plays, the whole word play thing I'm considering a whip. So if I finish one, that's not a finish, and the next one's not a new start. That's just progress through the whip. My objective is to do all 12 this year. This was number 4. January, February, March, April. This was number 4. I had fallen way behind. I didn't start anything until, I don't know, February. I don't know. So I had a little catching up to do, but I did get caught up. We'll see how I can stick with it because, you know. So I just did, like I said, 10 whips and 9 new starts. And I showed almost everything in my last video. I cheated myself of a start. I only had 8 in my basket. So I had to start something else. And I have a couple whips I'm just not even counting in this. I put a few stitches in a Mirabilia's Mermaids of the Deep. So it's technically a whip, but I don't know. And then I'm not considering my Heaven and Earth design a whip that I wanted to bring out for just one day. It's a pretty neglected whip, but it's fully on my mind with full intentions. I just know that when I get it out, I want to do a page, and a page can take me like a month of evening stitching. So it's still there. It's still, you know, it's just on a back burner. Let's say that. So my very first, that's what all my notes are about. I didn't have any rules as to what I started when I started it, except one self-imposed rule I made up as I started is that I couldn't work on anything unless it had been pulled into the rotation of Maynia. So the first thing I started was June's wordplay. And this is, again, I say I started it. It's not a new start. It's a continuation of a whip. I haven't even pressed it or anything. I only just finished it yesterday. So this one is June. I am roughly just picking them as I go with no rhyme or reason. So I did June, and I worked on it a lot of days. Almost every day that I stitched anything in Maynia involved this for a little while. It took forever. I thought it was going to go fast. It took forever. I said that about every one of them. So June's wordplay, I I don't know. I was not paying attention. It's not like the symbols are different, but the symbols are the the square that a stitch goes in is colored and a symbol is on top of that color. So there's three different reds in here, I think. A red with a plus on it, and a red with a star on it, and a red maybe with something else. I won't pull it out. Well, I was sort of working away and I was just looking at the reds as all one, and anywhere where there's a red box, I was putting in red thread, the whatever first red I pulled out. Well, there was another red that should have been used. So once I discovered my mistake, I just started working that one in a little bit. So I don't know, it doesn't matter. It hardly matters. And then the color lot has changed significantly on Mountain Mist, and I think, oh, Otter Creek. Both of them are very green. So I kept the one, Otter Green. It even looks blue here. Let's find that. It's green. In the picture, it's blue. And the little square, I think, is blue. But I just couldn't concede to putting green in the flag or the birds. And I think the birds were Mountain Mist. The flag was the same green as this. Something. I don't want to pull the pattern out. But anyway, I went looking for a blue that would work, and I ended up with Weeks Dolphin. Let's see if it'll settle. Look at my floss away bag. It's been in, it's been well loved. So that was my substitution, just so I didn't have green birds and a green field on the flag. And then it was my misinterpreting the pattern that made the reds not be quite right, but it doesn't matter. I would have done them all red because it's a pretty red. But whatever. I'm trying to stay somewhat true when it works. So I had, that was a whip that I worked on the first day. That one was a whip, one of the 10. And I managed to finish it. And I don't think I'm going to start June, the one I'm going to do in June, until June starts. Because it was, in Maynia, this is the first time I've ever done it. It was an interesting process of starting on things and then having to put them down. And maybe I could work on them the next day. But because I was trying to get the wordplay, keep up with the wordplay, that kept being the whip I went back to. So anyway, that was that. And then I have my big basket full of projects over here. I tried to have them all in order. So when I pulled them into rotation or when I started them, again, willy-nilly, no rules, do whatever you want. I believe I have a picture to put here. Of where this started for Maynia. It's kind of wrinkly. I'm working into these things, and I think there was some house details, windows, and maybe a tree or two. Oh, and all the moon and all the stars. I did that for sure. So that's my prairie schooler. Ages away from finishing it, unless I dedicated days straight to it, but it's okay. Whatever works out is fine. Oh, let's see. And then I did Sue Hillis's It's Winter. Now this was a new start. And I talked about Sue Hillis. Sue Hillis and Prairie Schooler are patterns I'd always like to have one in my whip. So this, again, started from nothing. And I don't know. What is it? Which way is it? Let's look at the picture. Oh, it's the gingerbread people and the heart cookie by the cookie jar. Not a bad start. This is a piece of MCG even weave that I coffee tea dyed a million years ago. So that's going. Then what did I do? We traveled a bit in May. We went away twice, 2 weekends in a row. Plus we had a busy weekend where I didn't work on anything on the Saturday, and then the 2 weekends we went away, I didn't do anything. I took wordplay both times, and I think I stitched a few stitches on it the one time, but I don't stitch in the car, and you're trying to stitch in a hotel room, and you're tired if you've been busy all day or whatever. So it took me more than 19 days to get through my Maynia plans. Then I did another new start. Excuse me. Marquee by Jardin Privé, and I talked about how I was using the DMC linen threads. These I think were not a hit. This pattern only takes 4 threads, 4 colors, so that was easy. The threads are a little rough. I'm looking at it trying to figure out which way is up. Okay, it's got to be this because of the way I hold it. That's it. Apparently that's it. I'm going to believe that where I worked was a little bit up here in her, I don't even know what you call it. It goes over her skirt. This isn't really a complicated pattern or anything. I just think whatever the day was, I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't even work on the wordplay that day, so my guess is I didn't have a lot of time to accomplish a lot of anything. So I just did a hurry up and get it started kind of thing. Oh, this is a beauty. That Marquis by Jardin Privé puts this one to shame, as little as I did on that. Mill Hills, this was a whip that I've ignored for a couple of years, I think. A year and a half. Pumpkin Patch. I love Mill Hills. I've only done one, though, that's the big piece of perforated paper. I've just done ornaments. So this one, if I have prior pictures of anything, I will insert them before each thing I talk about. This one was on stretcher bars when I showed it last time, and I talked about how there was a mistake in there somewhere, I was sure. And so this time I sat down to work on it, and I started doing one of the blues. It's a series of blues. Oh, that's not bad. It's a series of blues, and you just sort of layer them up next to each other. And when I started up over the fender of the back tires, I discovered that the mistake was down in here. So I took it all back out up to where the mistake was. So I know I put in more stitches than I took out, I think. So this was kind of a net wash, but I am ahead of the game because I figured out where the problem was. So when I start working on it again, hopefully I won't really neglect it. I will get ahead of the game a little bit. So I really like fall pieces. I don't tend to work on fall pieces as much as I work on Christmas pieces. No reason except that Christmas is favored, I guess. Where am I? Farms of Hawk Run Hollow. You'll need to see a picture here. I took one. I love this one. I love working on this one, but for some reason it's never really a priority piece. I talked about how I was hoping to work in conjunction with Kathleen of Kathleen's Trodden Trail when she does it with somebody on Wednesdays, and maybe she's at Reflections and Framing and with Julie McConnell on those days, because she sent me a text and said we're at Julie's working on Hawk Run Hollow. So I sent her a picture anyway of where I was, and then I worked away. This cow, I don't even think he was started. I think I was working on a sheep, and I actually finished sheep and cow, I think. I don't know. I worked away. I did pretty good. So Farms of Hawk Run Hollow saw the daylight a little bit for the first time in 2019. So that made me feel good. I didn't work on it yet. Wednesday, though. Sorry, I'm looking for a spot. I forgot Wednesday. Wednesday was a really busy day. I forgot what happened Wednesday. Whatever. I Baby, it's cold outside. Again, you'll have to look here so I can see myself when I put the picture in. You'll have to look here for a picture of the before, if I have one, after. This one was coming right along. I'm working on all these things. Yeah, where's my finger? I'm working on all these things, and I finished words. Love this one. This one really could be just a couple days of work. There's a few of them here that could be a couple days of work and they'd be done, which is fine. They got some attention that they weren't very much in need of. USA Crock. This is one of those that I said, what the heck? Why haven't I started it? It would take a day. Which, how did I do on it? I've lost my place. Oh, it's the only thing I worked on that day, but I don't know what else I did that day. USA Crock. My recollection is primarily that maybe I only worked on it in the evening because this is all I got done, is the USA part of the crock. Isn't it pretty? It's going to be pretty. It will be pretty. Somewhere I have mention of what the fabric is, because it's a pretty one too. Oh, no, that's the buttons. Not in here, apparently. Oh, Under the Sea Fabrics 36 count beach walk, which is a lovely piece of fabric. I don't even think the crock is all the way done. I feel like there's outer darker border that still goes. But anyway, it started. Yay me. Oh, I didn't work on anything. A traveling weekend. I worked on Spirit of Christmas for a day, and you remember, here's where I was, and it's a restart, and I think this is one of those that everybody has seen. I got some mitten and cuff done. Much more satisfying experience working on this random, weird piece of fabric. I wouldn't even know where to tell you it came from. All the details are upstairs. The project bag's empty. Had the piece, and it had the picture in it. I started Ink Circles 3 Little Kittens. This is cute. Cute, cute, cute. Get it out. Sorry. Tried to be on the ready. I got Mama Cat and I got 3 kittens underway. There may be some more detail on them. Certainly on this one. He's missing his bow. So, started, I believe, on a piece of earthen. Just looking at it. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm sure the real notes are in here somewhere. Oh yeah, 32 count. Picture this plus earthen. Summer soapbox. Oh, this is a favorite. I love this. This was a new start. I did winter soapbox a year ago. I was working on it like last winter. Lovely. This is a good one to take to StitchCon because you can just create the boxes and then do the pictures and the letters inside it. This one. So I start in the middle. Most everything is in the middle. So what I accomplished in the day and left it at that was the watermelon, the box with the watermelon. So pretty. I don't know. There. That'll be a pretty one. Don't know the fabric. Let me see. The balloon. 28 count. Picture this box. It's a Lugana, so it's an even weave. Summer soapbox. Oh, watering can crow. This is so cute. Let me find it. I have no idea what I did when I kitted this up. It's on like a piece of 25 count. No, it says miscellaneous 18 count. I have no idea where I was going with this. because, oh, let's see, let's get an actual color picture. Because if I do it over 2, it's gigantic, so I'm only doing it only over 1. And it is going to be stinking cute, as they say. And that is a red. The star is red. Let's see what we can do to get some true color going. I don't know, but it'll be cute when it's done. Oh, what a can. I worked on the under the dome pattern I talked about that's not really available to the world at general as a whole. I'm pretty sure there can be a before picture. I should have scoped these things out, sorry. I finished the white snow and outlined the tree, and somehow, somewhere, the tree is off one, but I didn't care. It's a tree. It's a tree. So, progress was being made. Let's see. Oh, I finished. This is a finish. I got out a whip. I might have a before picture. Can't think of the designer. Sorry. Greetings from Yellowstone. They're the little postcard patterns. Mine is somewhere in this room. I don't know. But anyway, I finished it, and I talked about, well, this is where I intend to not make as many errors as last time. A bison. This little guy is a bison, not a buffalo. I don't live that my daughter went to college in Buffalo, so there's like statues of buffaloes all over the place. And so they told us the difference, or how or why it was called a bison, not a buffalo. Sure as heck looked like the buffaloes I know. Anyway, when we were in and around the area of Yellowstone, we saw tons of bison, tons. I can put a picture in here. You could have reached out and touched these boys. So anyway, I talked about how I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I pulled out some dark blacks. I didn't want him to have the variegated blue in him. So what I did was I used, this whole piece was made using DMC's variegated, and it's a new, their variegated threads are new, and I love blues and browns together, and I just thought it would be fun. Prior to me choosing this thread to do this, Arlene of ABC Stitches, ABC, she gave a review of the variegated, and she said she found that the variegations were very short, so it changed very dramatically, which is really true. I tried not to overthink it, and I was just doing sort of row by row, but you can see this, to me it came out like patchwork, these trees. When it was spaced out like this, I didn't mind it. In the letters, I didn't mind it. The geyser, I tried to do more of like a circle-y kind of thing, and I still ended up with big dark chunks here and there, but I was resistant to manipulating the thread. But when I got down here to the bison, I cut out the chunks of brown and used just those. I think it was a pretty generous stretch when I could do 10 stitches. So it was very fiddly, but he's little and he looks, I'm happy with his look. So anyway, he's done. I have the frame to put him in. They fit right in a 4x6 if you do it on 28 count. So I can have an FFO if I set my mind to it, if I dedicated myself. I think finishing things, FFOing things is not high on my list. I have to really be in the mood. I have to have like unending time to do it. I'm looking at the clock trying to make sense out of what time it says. Don't even ask. I need to have like hours. I know that I have hours and hours to fiddle around and think about it and leave things laying out and think about it. And that never seems to happen. So anyway, after Greetings from Yellowstone, oh, this was another adventure. It has not been resolved yet. I am very, very fond of Rovaris patterns. Rovaris. I don't know how they pronounce it. So I have had beach in my stash for a while. Kitted up. That's where my whips all came from. Just things that already were kitted. And this is on a piece of 32 count earthen. This was a start, so it started from nothing. And I got this far. The letter A, some of the stripes. The word beach is all striped. So, and then in the pattern, I was ready to pull out, or thinking about, or not seeing in the 6 colors that this pattern takes. Sorry, there's a needle, like, I want to move it. So in this pattern, there's light blue. Light blue in the middle of the umbrella and light blue on the seagull's bellies. So there's no light blue listed on the key. There's no symbol that the light blue is like a question mark symbol. There's no symbol for a question mark. So I actually have Rovaris in my Etsy favorites, a favored shop. So I went to it and first I was trying to Google, corrections, and I wasn't finding any. So I went to the Etsy shop thinking maybe I would find a website or information to connect me to a website, and there wasn't. But when I clicked on beach, down, and it just gave a description or whatever down below, it said, if you have questions about this pattern, email or contact the seller. So I did, and I said, I don't know there's no color DMC color number given for the question mark symbol. I now am pretty positive that English is a second language, which is fine. That's fine by me. My girls wouldn't have a job if, if other languages weren't part of what we did. So I'm looking on my iPad because I'm just telling the story. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking for Etsy, sorry. I had a couple things I wanted to show you on this iPad. And so it's here and ready, and it thought it needed to update all its things, which is a really slow process. So anyway, she writes back, she writes back and she says, I'm sending you an electronic copy, maybe that will help. I go, oh, thank you. That was really nice. You could have just told me what the symbol was, but whatever. So I open up the downloaded new pattern. It's the same. There's no symbol. So I say, thank you. That was kind of you. That one is still missing the color number for the light blue or gray that is on the umbrella and the seagull's stomachs, the question mark symbol. Her response was, good morning, and sorry me. I don't know. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does anybody know anybody who stitched this? Anybody out there stitch this? What did you do about the blue? I know it's 6 colors. I can go through my DMC and pull out a blue. But in reality, what I don't know is, could this be a gray? Like seagulls are, could this be a gray and not a blue? It just looks blue in the picture. So I guess I was really looking for some confirmation. Or not. So I'm none the wiser on what to do about that one. Beach. Okay. Next was a whip that I forgot I had as a whip. This was one of those. And it's shameful the amount I did. You can tell I had a very, very busy week. And weekends and things. So Liberty Lane, keeping it the same color because I have the pillow and the buttons. I've said that before. If I have a before picture, I'll put it here. But honest to God, I don't know why I'd have a before picture because this is all I have done. I think before I had into this second story. I don't know. And it's white, and you know what whites like to stitch with. Not nice. So I'm not feeling a lot of inspiration to work on this anymore. I was just thinking about even doing the windows before I finished the white, just so I had something different to stitch. But it's not that I don't love the thing. It's just not talking to me. Then it came down to where I only had 2 things left in my basket, and that's when I discovered I didn't have enough new starts. So without giving much thought to anything, this one was all in a kit, ready to just pick up. I just picked it up. It's the cherry cake from the Cottage Cake series. And I remember when this was back, Country Cottage was doing lots of little series patterns where there were like 6 and they came, I don't know, you got them like once a month and you put them all together on one piece of fabric. I didn't do it. I had this one for whatever reason, however it happened. But what was interesting was I have done 1 or 2 of the other series and they're much smaller than this. This is enormous. This is on 30 count a weeks, which I tend not to like, but actually this is working out okay. And I'm masochistic when it comes to this, right? I do the border first, just to liven it up a little. And I started in this corner. I started right in the corner and moved my way down. And the very first little bump in, I screwed it up, and you can see it right here. Very first one, and I did not discover it until I was all the way down in this corner, and I was bringing this side down and this side over, and they weren't meeting. I went back, and here's the thing. I went back and I counted this side and the top, because I couldn't imagine the problem was anywhere else. But I left it. What it did is it dropped it down 1 too far, and it took it out 1 too far. So this little segment here and here, each of them have 1 more stitch than any of the other corners, and then they met, which is just stupid, but I'm sure as shoot not taking the thing out again. So anyway, that was Cherry Cake by Country Cottage. I'm especially fond of the red. What is the red? The red is Cupid. Isn't that cute? So, whatever. It's getting work done. And there you go. Probably if I hadn't spent so much time trying to find my mistake, I would have been further along, but it's fine. Sometimes having just a little something that you can just pick up because it feels like you don't want to get involved in anything. This will be a good one to have started. And then yesterday, because I'm not done with Maynia, today's the day I'll work on my last one. Yesterday, I pulled out this one, which was a whip, or no, it was a new start, sorry, from this issue of the Cross Stitcher. It was from 2016, I think, June of 2016. And when I got this, I right away, in the first got it, I stitched one of these and made a little beaded edge pillow. I showed last time how it sits in a little bowl with some little strawberries, and I love it so much. So I kept everything kitted up thinking I would do a second one, and I couldn't decide what to do, and apparently it wasn't a very high priority because I never got it out. And I decided to do this one. So that's what I did yesterday, and actually finished it yesterday, but I need to stitch all the way around it and then stitch the same size all the way around a second piece so that I can put the beaded edge on it. And here we go again. I have enough fabric to do another one, so I actually know this time I'm going to do this one. So I started and finished what I was considering a new start, but yet I still have the same project bag with a desired project in it. So there we go. The only thing I haven't worked on yet, today being Friday, I will finish today my last Maynia. It will be a whip. I will work on Country Still Life. I will put at the end of this video a picture of where I get today. Maybe a start picture. Oh, I can show you a start picture. I will insert in there an ending picture of where I am by tonight. Tomorrow I will have access to good internet. So that's why I'm doing a video today, and not waiting till tomorrow morning when I will be busy. And that would be Maynia. What do I think about Maynia? I think it was fun. I'm just seeing what this is left out. Okay. I think it was fun. I will probably do it again. I guess I need to see where I'm at with projects next year. It was fun to just work my way through a bunch of things that were kitted up. Nine things. I have more than 9 things. I am hoping, I mentioned before, that I would like to start something new for every 2 whips I finish. Or 2 projects, whatever. Now they're whips. I did finish this. Oh, heck. Oh, sorry. You guys are going to have to pause for a minute. Sorry about that. The phone rings. That was my husband. I had to take the call. All right. So what did I think about what Maynia? I think, actually the process of doing it didn't bother me. I'm so glad I didn't start 19 new things on top of having 10 whips. 10 plus a couple I'm not calling whips. I'm really happy that I had an excuse and or reason, legitimately, no excuses for starting 9 new things. So whether I do it again next year or not, I'm not sure. But anyway, I didn't hate it. Let's go with that. Let's see what it feels like. Like, do I keep up with working on these, or do we roll around to next year and I got all these left? That might not make me happy. So we'll see. We will. And what else do I want to talk about? There's more things. I don't want to do vintage yet because I have a little something to talk about one of them. I had one of the nicest, sweetest racks, right? We all know that, random act of kindness. I'm just blown away. When the envelope came, I was like, oh my, I could tell it wasn't what I was expecting it to be. I had mentioned on prior videos that my 2, I've had unicorn charts, and then you satisfy that, and then all of a sudden you discover there's some other things and that they're hard to get and they're out of date, out of print. And I had talked about Scenic Farm, and that it was, being offered on eBay, for like $100, and just didn't seem worth it, and they weren't even selling necessarily. So they were coming back around, with a buy me now option, but still about as high. And I don't know. I just couldn't seem to make myself buy one. I've moved them. I keep thinking they're over here. I'm going to pick it up. So I have a viewer that I've chatted with a few times in the past, Barbara. I won't say her last name because we didn't establish that was okay. She is of an age where she feels like she has more stash than she can ever stitch. This is going to open a whole other Pandora's box here. Because a lot of us know we probably have or will end up having more stash than we can ever stitch. And what do you do about that? What do you do? We kind of joke about how it might end up in the Goodwill. That would probably be a good... I hope my kids would never throw the stuff away. I'm going to come back and haunt them. So what do you do? I have often thought about that with my quilts. Like, those are done things. Like, that's not even the fabric that somebody else could turn into anything. And I think things to myself about what will happen with all these quilts. But it also comes into play when we talk about our stash, our cross-stitch stash, especially if something's in a kit form, because then it's even more of the supplies. So I mentioned Scenic Farms was one of the things that I was hoping someday to get. And she had it in her stash, and she sent it to me. And I believe this is the fabric it came with. I can't swear it's the fabric. So anyway, but there's the thread and everything. I was just blown away. It is so beautiful. Look how beautiful it is. Oh, I don't even know what to say. That was so overwhelmingly wonderful. But she knows I mentioned it. She knows I do big things, big projects, and that it would come to a good home where it would be loved and appreciated. And then, if that wasn't enough, oh my gosh. The first time Pam showed this on Pam and Stuff, I was like over the moon. Like, where can I get that? I've looked. On eBay, when you search it, it only comes up as a prior sold thing. So the cat is running up and down the stairs. I do not know what he thinks he hears or sees, but he came tearing down and he went back up. I can't wait to pull this out. I just cannot wait. I've had the package open already, telling myself, don't start it, don't start it, don't start it. I wasn't even going to call this an accidental start. This was going to be full on intentional, but so far to date, I have managed not to. So back to the subject of what do you do? These came to a good and loving home, and I so much appreciate that somebody had the thoughtfulness and the kindness to realize that she had something that I had been looking for and would love to stitch. So I thank Barbara. I can't thank you enough. That was such a generous gift. Like I keep saying, I'm circling around to something. In a piece of vintage I have, it's I wrote it down because for the life of me, I can't ever remember the name of this one. Holiday Express, that's the part I can remember, that by Stardust. This was the piece that almost did me in. I bought the called for linen, and it's very floppy, very, very floppy. So it's very unsatisfying to work on. And so I started it, and I actually started this one down in the corner. And this is another reason, this is the main reason, sometimes I hint at it, why I never start in the corner. Because I ended up not having enough fabric. I went to a store, and I always want 3 inches around, so I'm not really sure what happened when I measured in and started it. And when I got to the other side, I had to end my picture. And this was another building that you saw the door of, and the building did end at the edge. You know, you didn't get the full-on building and then no fabric. It just kind of ended. So I just had to end it. I kind of was glad because this piece literally was, I don't even know what you call it, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It hangs in my dining room where all of the best hang. It is beautiful. There's no denying it. So I had some friends over a couple weeks ago, and we were around the dining room table and visiting and whatever, and my friend just was so taken with this, and she said, can I have that when you die? I said, yes, you can. Because she goes, really? She said, will you put my name on it? I said, I absolutely will. Honestly, because first of all, can you imagine like, people love the things you do, but somebody to be like that taken with it, to say, could I have that? I'd love to give that to you someday. Now, she's a good, probably 15 years older than me, but still, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I would be delighted. I'd be delighted if, now, that does not mean in my comments you can all start asking me for stuff. Don't do it. Don't do it. If my kids said things like that, can I have that someday? I'd probably take it off the wall and give them to them now. But at any rate, I said something to Kathleen of Kathleen's Trodden Trail, and she thought that was kind of a morbid request. But honestly, if this ended up in Goodwill, I don't even know. I have no idea how I'd survive that one. I wouldn't be survived. That's the whole point. But it would be devastating because that piece really, really, really challenged me. So anyway, enough of all that. I brought some vintage. When I talked about the cherry cake and how it was so much bigger than I expected, that's because here's an example of one of the things a Little House or Country Cottage did. I don't remember. And it was a flower theme. It stitched years ago, but it was like one came out a month. I don't know, something like that. That was such a phase there for a while. I finished it in 2007. So I would have to say geranium is my favorite. And if you've done geranium house, this is very similar, like very similar. That was there last time, so I'm not going to take it down. I showed you last time. And then this one was just sitting, trying to keep her name out of it. This actually, what made me think of it was on Stash Unload. And it's called Sleepy Bunnies, and it was a Jan Lynn kit. And I stitched this when I was like 110 months pregnant with my youngest, or it just felt that way. She's a summer baby. And yeah. So I stitched this, and I actually was all the way up to putting the date in, and I couldn't decide, it was getting to be the end of 1 month and the start, like, oh, do I put in this month or do I really wait? She was born on the 3rd of a following month, So anyway, and we're painting and putting new flooring in her room. So this was down off her wall. And honestly, I don't know if I'll put it back up in that room. The other kids' samplers have already been, they nixed those from their walls years ago. So they're hanging in the guest room, which is, I think, a nice place to hang those. So this one may end up in the guest room as well. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I'm fond of that one for some reason. Those little bunnies, I guess. I know. Another reason why I had my other iPad out was we were going to have a little geography lesson for no reason other than I was going to talk about where we went. One of our trips away was we went to the Thousand Islands, and I know, that it's entirely possible because I talked about going there last year that people don't know where the Thousand Islands is. So we're going to do a quick geography lesson of New York State. New York State. I have lived in New York most of my life, but not all my life. I was born in Ohio, lived in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. New York State looks like this. I tell anybody you're from New York, they think you're from New York City, which is way the heck down here. New York City considers anything not New York City, Canada, but sorry if I offend anybody, but my husband's from New York City, and so there's a ton of family from and still in that area. So mostly that was a jab at them. I live in what we call upstate New York in the Finger Lakes. So here's all the Finger Lakes. So I live in the Finger Lakes, Rochester area, Finger Lakes. Thousand Islands is up where Lake Ontario meets the St. Lawrence River. And there's like 1,000 islands up there. Like literally, there's islands big enough to only have a house on it. Like you need to have a boat to get to your house. There's larger islands. There's it's quaint, it's fun, and it's where big tanker ships come through. I can show a picture. Um, it's a neat place to visit. There's a lot of history there because of the Seaway and stuff, and some of the little old towns are still really quaint. And we visited a lighthouse, and interestingly, I like to visit lighthouses. We visit lighthouses when we travel. Um, this one had a whole house, a little building that was just the foghorn. I'll put it in here. I never heard of that. Never seen that. So anyway, we went up there. It's only about 3 hours away to go up there, and the tanker ships come through. I was fascinated by the tanker ships. Like I looked up online all the time. You can look up. There's like an interactive map that shows you where any tanker is or the freighters at any time on the lake. So it was really fun to see what's coming. Where's it headed? What port of call? A lot of them go to Montreal, but the varying cities all along the Great Lakes, they stop to pick up or drop off whatever they're shipping. So that's your brief lesson in New York State. New York State geography. So I don't live in New York City. I live in the most beautiful part of the state, although I'm very fond of the Adirondacks, and the Thousand Islands is lovely too. They get some weather up there, though, let me tell you. So anyhow, there's your geography lesson for the day. You thought you were done with school. When I was a kid, somewhere young, we had a jigsaw puzzle that was the United States, and every state was its own puzzle piece. So geography of the United States was something we were always good at. I think all of us were. So when you got to fifth grade, you always knew the states because we had spent all the years building that puzzle. So when my kids were little, I bought them also a puzzle. I still have it. I'm not going to show you because the pieces will fall out if I try to. It's a wooden framed puzzle, but every piece is a state. And my kids said that they did really well in school, and teachers couldn't believe that they knew things like the difference between Vermont and New Hampshire. And they said it's because we had that puzzle. So get your kids, your grandkids, whatever, a puzzle of the geography, the United States. Each piece has a little bit of information on it, like maybe what's the capital, maybe the state bird, whatever, things like that. But having had that when I was a kid, I knew that would be a fun and useful thing for my own kids, and they can still tell you that it did help them learn. So anyway, what can I say? All right, Friday. I always have to wrap it up. Friday the 24th. I've already done the grocery. Usually I grocery shop earlier in the week, but this week has also been very busy. Grocery shopped, getting ready for kids to be around, and trying to pretend it's summer, but it's not. I did planting and some planting, and there needs to be more planting, and I see that there's some things that didn't come back that need to be pulled up, and whatever's the usuals. But it's going to rain today, so it won't be today. So anyway, I will have to splice these together if my pause caused it not to pick up. I had that happen once. I had to pause it once, and when I started again, it just kept going. And I'm going to put a picture in at the end of where I got to on Still Life. Hope everybody has a great weekend. I can't wait to see everybody's Maynia conclusions. I've seen a few. And other than that, stitch away. Bye.